Hello everybody in YouTube land, and welcome! Today I am doing the first of hopefully many entries. Did I just wake Russ up? I did. He was sleeping on the bed so nice, and then I started talking. And he was like, oh, this guy's talking. This is going to be hopefully my first of many designer diaries to showcase kind of the process, the challenges, the successes, all the stuff regarding my custom campaign that I have been working on. So I've been working on this custom campaign off and on, mostly off since 2022. I've set a goal to finish it in 2025. This is one of my resolutions in my resolution video, where there was a lot of kind comments, and some of those comments were, we want to playtest your custom campaign, and we want to hear more about your custom campaign, and we would love to see like design diaries about your custom campaign. And I thought that could be a good way for me to stay accountable to hit that goal. So if I do like a monthly update, it'll make sure it's in the back of my mind. I can look at my YouTube schedule for release videos and be like, okay, this video's coming up, so I should make some progress on this. I should make sure we're playtesting, but also it's a way for people to stay informed because people have expressed interest in the campaign. So this first one is going to kind of just be a preliminary, like what the campaign is, what's it about, and then like I have some of the, not first drafts, but some like other drafts of some of the encounter cards that I can share with you all today too. So just kind of like a little idea diving in about what the whole thing is. So a few things. This campaign, it's currently untitled. You don't need to play with the mouse, Russ. It's currently untitled. The working title is The Painter. That's just what the file folder is named in my computer. But this campaign, does not take place in the 1920s. It actually takes place in the modern day, but I am not acknowledging that in any way in terms of, like, there's no references to like cell phones or like cards, like modern cars or anything like that. It's all going to be flavorfully that it could still fit in the 1920s, but it's actually set in the modern day. The other thing too is that it's not taking place in Arkham. This is set in a fictional city, part of a horror project that Eric, who you might know from our channel, and myself have been working on since 2010. This is something called Red Hall, which is a fictional city rather, in the Pacific Northwest that is plagued by monsters. Very much heavily inspired, obviously, by Arkham City, by like Derry from It, and that kind of stuff. Like just the idea like that this is a town that has a history of malice and evil, and a city that has a city that has a history of malice and evil, and it's like one of those things that it's kind of just something that we do a lot of. On our channel, we actually have a lot of Call of Cthulhu campaigns that take place in this city of Red Hall. And it's also one of those things that I've designed board games for and card games for that I've been poking at for a long time as well. So it's the kind of like the place, the hub that I work through for any of my horror creations. I'm a big fan of horror in real life, in terms of like literature and art. So it's one of those things that I like to have a world that I work in, and there's a lot of inspirations and like threads that I can pull in there, and there's a lot of cool stuff that I can draw from that make me think, ooh, this would be a fun thing to explore in my own game, but also actually in Arkham Horror itself. There's a major theme of this campaign, which is what is fate and what danger can exist if someone controls the fate of others. In addition to this not taking place in Arkham, it's also not going to actually have any actual ancient ones in it. Like Arkham, like there's nothing from the Cthulhu mythos. There's no Gugs, there's no Cthulhu, there's none of that, at least in this campaign. A big reason is that, again, I like to kind of just like work in my own space. And it's actually like those reasons where like, in a lot of custom campaigns, I really enjoy seeing custom designers work in their own space as well. There's a big reason why I've often told Beard that I think Cyclopean Foundations and now Circus Ex Mortis are two incredibly unique campaigns, because while yes, they're using the Cthulhu mythos, I think he designs a really cool story of his own in there, and I think that's really neat. So this is going to be its own custom thing, its own original thing, without any sort of Lovecraftian monstrosity. With that said, there's a lot of still that weird horror. The City of Red Hall is weird horror, and there is that cosmic horror that still comes with it. Like, cosmic horror is still a very big part of this. So like that is still going to be a very much an influence. This isn't like a horror where it's like you don't have to, like, there's no, it's like this. It's still horror. It's still firmly rooted in horror. It's still firmly rooted in weird horror, in that like primordial dread, but it's not directly related to actual entities within the Lovecraftian mythos. And I understand that for some people, both the modern setting, the non-Arkham setting, the not linking to the Arkham setting, and also the no Lovecraftian mythos might be a deal breaker for some people. But to those people, I say, sorry, this custom campaign ultimately is not for you. I'm designing this custom campaign for me. So if other people enjoy it, that's really cool. But the main thing is that I want to enjoy it. So that is kind of been, like, that's kind of my design goal, right? I'm doing this for me. And if other people like it, that's great. If other people don't, that's great. And a thing for that too is I'm actually trying to, even as I approach the design for this whole thing, this basically just going to be me ranting for 30 minutes or something like that. So if you like that, congratulations, you got a great video today. But I'm thinking, like, for my I'm a bit of a perfectionist with some stuff. Like, you might not be able to tell from our videos when I release something that has like a spelling error in it and I just let it slide. But when it comes to creative stuff, I like to make sure it's like tight and perfect. And that can actually be an issue of why this thing keeps sitting on the back burner, right? Because I try to like make it perfect. So what my plan for releasing this is I'm actually trying to keep this thing mostly in the playtesting world until a more closed playtesting environment until I release it like Fantasy Flight does, and then I'm looking to never touch it again. That will probably mean that it's going to come out with a few bruises that show up in the future that I need to like clarify. But if that happens, that's also, I think, better for me in terms of actually getting this done. I also think it's a nice challenge for me to work with of having an end date, because I know that that's something that both Beard, Axolotl, and even Dr. Jack Science have told me. It's very important to see something as done, and that is a problem that I have with a lot of creative endeavors. So I think that having like a release where then I just do one public release is going to be the way I'm going to do that. Oh, obviously subjects change, but this is the place to talk about that. Lastly, a major motif throughout this whole campaign is paintings and the painters of those paintings. One of these painters may be the main antagonist of the campaign. So I've often said in the past that I really like Haster because I came from a background of theater. So I'm very drawn to that kind of thing. And the same thing is true for why I like Jim Culver. Because like I like the idea of art and its connection to horror. And that just naturally happened with this when I was like, what should the motif be? And I was like, paintings are cool. Paintings are neat. Let's make paintings the vibe here. So, as I said, the working title that I have is called The Painter, and this is all just about paintings are going to kind of be like the motif that comes with it. Let's keep this going. So, here are some mood images that I can kind of just showcase the vibe of the campaign. Yeah, they speak for themselves, I guess, in a way, right? Like, it's kind of like dark, brooding, a little bit of like dread, a little creepy. Arkham Horror, the card game, lives in a pulpier environment, but my idea of horror is not pulpy, right? Like, my preference for horror is not the pulpy kind. I don't think there's anything wrong with pulp. I love pulp horror, and I think Arkham Horror, the card game, just naturally has that pulpy horror to it. Like, you can pull out a double-barreled shotgun out of nowhere and shoot something in the head, right? Like, and that's still going to be a thing that comes across in the gameplay of this, but I think just by my very general nature, the vibes are going to be a little bit more dreadful. And I'm hoping to have the difficulty and the feelings of the scenario match this. Again, I don't really know how like things are going to be going for this, but I'm designing this for me. So this is like going to be that campaign that I want to play, where if I want it, when I want to feel like a little bit scared and overwhelmed, as things just feel like I feel hopeless and human. And yes, I'll probably still play this campaign where I like use a runic axe and like chop up a bunch of things and spin around like my blender, like I did in the vault in that side scenario we played in Scarlet Keys. But it's not in my design philosophy to have that be there coming across in the treacheries and like the enemies that exist in the game. And yeah, it's one of those things that it's just like just to give you like perspectives for the mood of it. Because the mood to me is the most important thing. Like it's why some of my favorite scenarios I've ever played. There was like this one scenario in Jack Traxey's Betrayal of the Mountains of Madness. And it's still my favorite custom scenario I ever played. Where it's scenario 4 and you have to go through this like facility in Antarctica, and there's all these like frozen creatures, and they're like, and you're just like, something's bad, and I need to like, something bad is going to happen. Why are these creatures all frozen like they are? What's happening? How do I deal with this? Like, I know I'm going, the deeper I go, there's more obstacles on the way out. And then, of course, they come to life and you have to get out through there. And I was just like, the mood on that one was insanely good and it stuck with me. I obviously like it when scenarios have cool hooks, which is something that I'm also trying to find for myself. But to me, it's like the mood and the exploration are like the two big things that I like in Arkham Horror. All right. The major mechanic of this campaign isn't what you consider to be a traditional mechanic. So it's not keyworded. It's not like anything like that. It's not like scan. I mean, it's not as clever as scan. It's not as clever as notice. It's not as clever as the moon tokens. But my plan is to explore the idea of fate by utilizing the symbol tokens as a way of showcasing that. So early on in the campaign, the investigators will be placed onto one of 3 paths, and these paths will determine how certain aspects and challenges of the campaign are formed. This offers some slight replayability, with each path giving slight differences to one another in the game. So when I mean a path, I don't mean like scenarios, right? So you always, in the first scenario, you're going to choose, or randomly choose, depending on how you want to do things, one of 3 paths to follow. That path is going to determine the first tokens that are in your cup, and then also what certain cards will like certain treacheries or enemies that might change throughout the campaigns to come, like the scenarios to come. This is something that is mostly in the theory stage, but I've played a lot of Arkham Horror. You might not know that about me, but I've played a lot of Arkham Horror in my life, so I kind of have like the base philosophy for like how you can merge design and practicality. I think I'm so bad at clue numbers. I actually have some things that are the challenges coming up later in this design diary. But I think this mechanic, to me, is very interesting. And I'm discovering a lot of cool design space to explore in it, in terms of how it alters scenarios and how it alters setups. So it's going to be a linear campaign. I might also say this on a later path, so I might be stepping on the toes of future Justin here. But it's going to be a linear campaign. So scenario 1, scenario 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 scenarios. Traditional Arkham style. But I'm trying to find ways that I can alter the replayability. And the big thing of that is, what path of fate are you on? And how does that influence the rest of the campaign? So, here are some showcases of some encounter sets that I have. I think I have 2 encounter sets that I'm going to share with you today. These are probably the things that are like closest to being like in a place that I think is good. But they're still a work in progress and subject to change. And you might see updates to these in future design diaries, which I think is also fun because you can kind of see like how things are going to go. Mad Artist 312. This is a cultist humanoid enemy, hits for 1 and 1. It's aloof and has Hunter. Forced, if a cultist, tablet, or squid token is revealed during a test at Mad Artist location, you reveal another token. So when I mentioned earlier that the path you choose is going to determine what path you're on, right? Like what area of fate you're going to be dealing with. This is done with 3 different dream influences, I guess the thing is how to call it. And they're represented by either the cultist, tablet, or squid token. So this guy really is only going to trigger off of the tokens that are in the cup. So you're not going to have like a cultist, a tablet, and a squid. You're going to have like Carcosa style, like 2 cultists, right? Maybe 3, depending on how things go, once I figure out the balance. So he's going to the idea is that these tokens that you draw are the influence of the fate that you have been chosen the path or forced onto the path, because again, do we really control our fate? And they all have bad effects when you fail. So the idea is that these are like bad things that you're going to see more and more of, which has been very fun to explore. Bloody Brushstrokes is another treachery from the set Mad Painters, where you resolve the hunter keyword on the nearest ready non-elite cultist enemy. Then each cultist enemy deals their damage and horror to an investigator at their location. If no damage or horror was dealt this way, this card gains Surge. So this card does sound pretty scary, doesn't it? It does, but I like it. I kind of like that things are a little bit scary. I'm planning on trying things out on the harder side and balancing from there. And this is one of those things that because the cultists are linked to the set that you're dealing with, there might not be too much that is going to trigger. It's going to be something that I'm going to have to see in practice and balance from it. But I like the idea because these guys are aloof. And like I think that's a fun part of these mad artists. And I think there's a lot of counterplay, obviously, with 1 health enemies, right? There's a lot of counterplay that come with them, especially with some of the new cards we've been seeing in Drowned City and things like that, which is what makes Arkham fun from both a player standpoint, but also a designer standpoint, where you can make these cards that are annoying and hard, but you also like don't want to work too much into like stopping counterplay of those cards. So like there's a lot of cool things you can do to deal with this mad artist to make cards like Bloody Brushstrokes less scary, but as a designer, you can make Mad Artist a little bit of a tough card, but also makes Bloody Brushstrokes a tough card, and just assume that most people are going to solve the problems, and if they don't, they should rightfully be punished for it. Because again, as the designer, I am working to beat the players. I know like there could be a philosophy where it's like a DM from a campaign, like from Dungeons and Dragons, and you're trying to make a good campaign for your players, and that's true. I'm trying to make a good campaign for you to play, but at the same time, unlike a DM who's trying to make everybody happy, I am trying to make you a little bit annoyed. I am trying to make you have the worst day of your life while also having the best day of your life. So that's kind of like where Bloody Brushstrokes comes in. We also have 1 with the art. So this is a revelation, it's a power. Choose a ready non-elite cultist enemy in play. Exhaust that enemy and place 1 doom on it. Until the end of the round, that enemy gets +2 fight and +2 evade. This is actually a card that is very similar to a lot of Arkham Horror cards that like, you can see this in like Silver Twilight from Circle Undone, right? Where the idea is that you place a doom on an enemy and they just become harder to deal with. They don't get higher health. So again, there's a lot of counterplay that can come with it. But how much counterplay can you put into dealing with one set when there are other counter sets that come with it? And I think for me, that's a very fun kind of like scales to balance there. All right. I think I have another encounter set for you to kind of further show these paths. No, this is not. This is still related to the artist. So this one is another encounter set called the Artist's Paint that is still a work in progress and subject to change. This is actually one of the first encounter sets I designed, and you actually can kind of see how this is here to push and punish the fate mechanic, which is represented by the paint stuff that comes with it. So, Splitting Piece is a treachery. As a revelation, you put into your threat area, forced after revealing tokens for a test. If you did not reveal a cultist, tablet, or squid token, reveal another token. And then as an action, you can test any skill 1. If you pass, discard this card. So really, this one's basically just an action tax, but it's one of those things that even on this test for this card, you're going to have to reveal multiple tokens if you do not reveal a cultist, tablet, or squid token, which I think is kind of some fun space. Then to also make those tokens scarier, and as we see just going back, you can see that it kind of follows a similar sort of vein as Mad Artist. And I think flavorfully and thematically, I like the idea that the cult painters and the paint cards having synergy together. Charcoal Touch is a peril. Revelation, test any skill 4. If you reveal a cultist, tablet, or squid during this test, remove each card committed to this test from the game after this test ends. If you fail, take 1 damage and 1 horror. So another thing that you'll notice on these cards here from this paint set is that their mechanic is any skill as well, because the idea is these cards are here to make make the just tests harder, right? Like it makes the tokens, the symbol tokens, matter more, and they're also designed to be solvable and not too redonkulous for you to deal with, so that's why you can test any skill with them. Like this is especially true with splitting police. It's only a difficulty 1 test that's easy to pass, but the odds are that you're probably going to need to reveal 2 tokens. So let's just say you're up 5, you get a -2 and a -2 and you pass, right? Like, but it makes it so it's like a little bit trickier to actually get it done. I'm very curious to also see in playtesting how token manipulation deals with this campaign, or even the idea of sealing. I think that can be a really fun thing. Last treachery here is Cacophony of Color. This is an omen. Revelation, place Cacophony of Color next to the agenda and seal the 3 highest modifier tokens in the token cup on this card. The Elder Sign token is considered to be the highest modifier in the token cup. I think I need to change token cup to Chaos Bag. I have to actually find out what the actual term is that they use. I always call token cup, but that just might be a Justinism. And this is an action. Test any skill 2. If you pass, discard this card. I might need to add text that you need to, like, that anyone can trigger this. I'll need to look at some cards that go next to the agenda and see. That's actually a fun thing I like too. I like looking at cards and like seeing how things are actually correctly worded. You can see the Cacophony of Color as just like an example of, once again, following the same things. Make it more likely for you to trigger the symbol tokens. And I think this is one that I designed back in the day on stream, and Beard was there and Beard was giving me advice. And I think I remember Beard saying they liked the idea of the test any skill 2, and also I think that there's actually a card that was similar to this in the Color Out of Oz that sealed the highest tokens, and I think that's such a cool design, and I love that. I just love it. I love seeing that even like the testing skill. I love seeing stuff coming from that one stream, because these are the old cards, the Mad Painters and the Artist's Paint. Those are 2 cards that, like, these are 2 sets that have been designed since like my first design stream for this campaign back in 2022. All right. So one thing I'm also trying to do is I'm trying to take a different approach on how difficulty levels are handled in this custom campaign. My hope is to design a reason to play standard versus hard that isn't directly related to only what tokens are in the Chaos Bag. It's a big pet peeve of mine that easy, standard, hard, and expert are defined basically essentially by the tokens in the bag. So like the expert has an extra auto fail in it. My hope of this design in this campaign is to utilize utilize a token bag that is actually pretty similar. So like expert is not going to have a -8. Expert might have a -5, might have a -6 once I figure out the numbers in playtesting. But the idea is that the token bag is not going to scale too high or too different between them, but rather the cards that you deal with or the threats you have to deal with in the campaign are going to be more difficult due to the difficulty you're playing, which I think is a little bit more exciting and also very enjoyable for me as a designer to come up with ideas of like, okay, so here's the standard. How do I make this a little bit harder? So an example of this is Aspect of the Sister. It's a 3-player 2 elite apparition humanoid. It's a hunter, and if you're playing on easy or standard, use this side of Aspect of the Sister. Forced. After it attacks, each investigator at Aspect of the Sister location not engaged with it takes 1 damage, and it's a victory 1 enemy, so this might be a boss monster in one of the scenarios. The hard version, so the version on the right, is a 4-player 3. So you need to put out player more health. It also gains Retaliate, has the same text. After attacks, each investigator at Aspect of the Sister location not engaged with it takes 1 damage. But it also deals an extra damage to you. So as you can see, it also has 3 evade as well instead of 2 evade. It's a little bit harder to deal with as a whole. Like the card itself is, the numbers are harder and the effect hits harder. And I think to me, this is a lot more interesting than like just having the tokens be a thing. Because even if I look at Aspect of the Sister easy standard or hard expert, like Daryl can use his ability in the first scenario, like say for example this is in the first scenario, to reduce its evade difficulty to 0, and then you only fail on the auto fail. But with the Aspect of the Sister, you're only reducing it to 1, which means that the tokens you have to do, the tokens might change, and you might, if you really want to pass, you might need to like commit more stuff to it. And then again, like these are fun numbers to tweak as well, because then I can like, maybe it's not retaliate, maybe it's alert instead, because it's one of those things where like this thing just shouldn't be standing, because if it's standing, it's going to hit for a lot and people are going to try to evade it, which I think is kind of a fun area to explore as well. This is probably one of my most favorite thing I've done, like this this standard hard thing. And then I also want to find ways to make hard and expert different and easy and standard different as well, which is very enjoyable from a design perspective. Okay, I think we're nearing the end of this. This is something that I'm going to do in all of these videos for the design diaries. I'm going to kind of go like a scenario progress breakdown with rough estimates. These numbers are just like me pulling them out of my ass, but my idea is that like 50% is design, 50% is playtesting, and like they kind of add up to like 100 when it comes through it. And like design is going to reveal more playtesting, and then like, you know, it's like it could be one of those things that like it actually might go down in percentage once I realize problems are there. So this is just at the point in this current actual design diary here in early or mid-January, because 2025 is practically already done at this point. Time is going so quickly. So as you can see, scenario 1 and 2, pretty substantial design and some minor testing done. These are the only two scenarios that I've actually actively built a full functioning scenario. So it has all the action agendas, all the mythos cards, all the like everything you need to do. And those are the only two that I've actually seen actual play testing. Scenario 3 has had some substantial design. And it's actually funny. This is probably something I'm going to talk about more in the future, but it's kind of crazy to me how many of these scenarios I've designed, and I'm just like, wait a minute. There is so much influence from like Path to Carcosa here. Even to the sense that some of them are almost kind of like the same setup, but just like reimagining things. And this is just due to the nature of the story that is being told. Which was very cool. And scenario 3 and scenario 5 might be part of that that revelation that I had. Scenario 4, 6, and 7 have only had like the concept. So just story and base mechanical concept down. So like I haven't put any actual pen to paper or any thought. Haven't really designed any cards. Haven't really like done anything. They don't even have a folder yet in the Strange Eons. So they're kind of just like there, and they're kind of just like vibing. So those have seen like very little work. They just kind of exist as an idea. Like I have mechanics and like story for the scenario, but no actual like real bones yet. Scenario 5 and scenario 8 have had some mechanical design. It was very important for me to actually make sure that I started working on the final scenario. Due to the reason that like I want to end this in a really cool way. And scenario 8, my idea is kind of fricked up. It's kind of crazy. And I think it's one of those things that unfortunately is going to be a nightmare to play with physical, but pretty easy to do on Tabletop Simulator. So because of that as well, I'm kind of like not limiting myself to card counts. I'm just like I'm gonna have like it's open season on card designs and stuff like that, like for card counts and all that, while still also keeping the complexity as low as I possibly can, because I like things to be like a little bit smooth, just for my personal preference in my own designs, even going to my own board games as well. But it's very important to me for scenario 8 to have like a good footing. So don't be surprised if that one also starts moving up faster than say like scenarios 4, 6, and 7. But at the same time, I actually was lying in bed last night and a great idea hit me for scenario 7, which is great. And that's also why I like doing these, why I think this idea for giving you these design diaries each month for accountability for myself is going to make sure that this stays in my mind, and having people also like comment on it and talk to me about it. If you want to talk to me about it, you can join our Discord and just like ping me in the in our Arkham Custom channel. Like I love talking about it, and it's a good way for me to actually stay focused. So I think these videos are going to really help with that. So yeah, that's the scenario progress breakdown as of January. What is I'm going to release this on the 18th? Yeah, the 18th of January in 2025. I'm curious to see how they are in February. I have a few more things. These are some current challenges that I have. Scenario 1 is eluding me slightly. I'm feeling as though it is missing a hook to really make it stick. However, I need to keep in mind, is this because I know all the twists and turns? So this is interesting. I made some changes to scenario 1 actually last night that I think might give me more of what I was looking for. My original scenario 1 actually felt a lot like Dream Eater scenario 1 in terms of like having one agenda that was just really big. But I think ultimately that didn't do enough to like change the pace of it. So I changed it. But it is very interesting to be playtesting these and like know what's coming, and from a design standpoint, just knowing everything, or like drawing an encounter card, and instead of just thinking, what does this encounter card do? Thinking instead, does this encounter card work? Are these numbers right? Is the feeling right? Do I like what I'm seeing? And it's one of those things where like I think I want to get to a point where I can also bring in some other people in these playtests and just like watch them play, right? Just like organize a thing where I can just watch them play, and we could be like, hey, it's fricked up. There's like possibly things that are going to be broken, but I think we need to. I think I need to see someone else play it to actually get a vibe on if it's working. So you can see this is the act 1 from the first scenario. Do not draw cards in the encounter deck during the Mythos phase. Forced, if you're defeated, place your clues on a painting location. You suffer no trauma. It's only a dream. An objective, explore the dream. You'll be instructed when to advance, right? So, like, I think it's a nice, interesting hook, right? Especially, like, the if you're defeated, place your clues and, you suffer no trauma. Like, I think that's, like, a fun... that was a recent addition I did as well. But I think I might have figured this out, so I'm going to see how this goes on my next playtest for it. Another thing is that location design that is interesting is very challenging to me. I've kind of underestimated, because like if I could, I would just have like locations be blank. But like locations need text on them. Like it's very rare you're gonna find a location in Arkham Horror that doesn't have some sort of thematic or like game design effect to it. And coming up with those designs are tough for me, right? So I think I'm getting there better, and I'm able to tell like a story better, but this was something that was really hard for me when I just first started. Another thing that's I'm clue counts on locations. I've just been putting player clues on everything and worrying about the other stuff like later on. I'm being like, this will even out in time, and like maybe I can then like make some victory locations have some excess clues to go with it. So yeah, that's one of those things that it's those like the locations are just kind of tough for me, and like clue counts are also hard for me to like figure out and really dive deep into. But this location, Seat of the Sister, forced, if you begin your turn on this location, draw the topmost treachery from the discard pile, then shuffle it into the encounter deck. I'll tell you, I was doing a playtest, and I revealed this location, and I was like, I hate this location. And then I was like, yes. Good, Justin. Let the hate flow through you. You were like, this is a miserable location for me to just move into as my last action, right? But I like the idea if you're exploring a dream, there might be some punishments that come on how things go. So I think this is a very fun thing that I'm going to do further playtesting with. And maybe, for example, this will be one of those things that has the clue threshold bumped up to make the victory a little bit juicier to come with it. But I am also planning on this being like, even though personally for me, I don't like a lot of VP, I'm not going to limit VP to match my level. I'm going to have VP actually be like an enjoyable rate because it is kind of fun. And I'm also considering ideas of like spending VP during the campaign as well to do certain things as well to kind of match that. Kind of like what happened in the Return to Threads of Fate, but that's still kind of just like on scratch pad paper. Is this it? Nah. All right, here's the other one. Another thing is actually putting in the time to do the play testing. I can open up design files and just play around or read, but putting in the runs of the scenario has been very elusive. So when I say I can open up design files and just play around or read, I can't tell you how many times I've opened up, like I was like, let's open up scenario 1. And then I just like read all the treacheries, read all the locations, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And then I close Strange Eons. Like I might like change like a wording, change a number. I just like looking at the cards and being like, yeah, that's neat. And I think that I just need to like actually start playtesting, or as I mentioned earlier, or at the bottom of this slide, opening up to playtest in the future or like sooner. So and I'll definitely be sharing that when I do. But I think that's like one of those things where like I actually need to I need to put in the playtime to also do this. And like a big thing is that because I record Arkham all day, and then I'm like, I don't even want to like think of a level 0 deck. So I think I might just need to like grab decks that I've already played and then like run them. I don't know. That's a tough part. But I have a card here too because I know you guys also like seeing the cards that are some current designs. So this is Primordial Stirring. This is a peril, revelation, choose one asset, event, or skill. Until the end of the round, treat each card of the chosen type's text box as if it was blank, except for traits. If there's a cultist token in the chaos bag, choose 2 instead of 1. So this is actually a pretty simple design, but you actually can kind of see that, you can kind of see the inkling of it, where as I talked about those paths, each path is also going to have like a mechanical theme to tie it all together. And cultists, for example, might be about blanking cards or that kind of thing. So that has been a very fun thing to explore in the design and get discoveries that came with it, especially in Scenario 3. I cooked up some cool stuff with there that I think people might, I need to playtest it, but I'm like, I think people might regret some paths they go on if I know some things about some people's preferences for how they like to be challenged in Arkham Horror in certain ways. That it's very fun. It's very fun to like also think of like, how do I challenge other people, but also additionally, how do I challenge myself and my play style, and like just trying to like cover all those bases in a variety of different ways. Treachery design is very fun. Enemy design is all right. Location design, poopy. I love designing treacheries though. There's some really fun stuff to do there. And that's that. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this initial design diary. This is mostly a tester for me to try to find a good structure for this, so let me know in the comments if you like this, if you like the structure, if you want me to do anything to like expand on it, if you want to see me talk about specific things. And again, if you want to just talk to me about this, you can do it in the comments, or alternatively, you can go to our Discord, into the Arkham Custom channel, and ping me there. I'd be happy to talk about stuff with you about all this. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I will see you next month for another one of these design diaries, or alternatively in a few days when I release another Arkham video that might interest you. Thank you for watching. If you want to support me and the channel, you can do so by liking, commenting, subscribing, or joining our Patreon, which you can find a link down in the video description, and join all these awesome names here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one, and as always, a GG's.